welcome to another episode of the Wanderlust Wealth Show. This is part 2 of how to buy your first or next house hack investment property. Now, if you haven't already gone and listened to part 1, this is a 4-part mini series that I'm doing here on the show. I would highly recommend you go back and actually listen to part 1 because part 1 went over what to do before you actually get under contract. So if you aren't actually under contract right now, go ahead and listen to that episode. Then come back and listen to this one because part 2 is going to be all about what actually happens when you are under contract. So this is assuming that you've got your offer accepted and you're celebrating. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm under contract. But also you're probably freaking out and a little bit nervous because you're finally under contract and you're like, what do I do now? But let's freaking go. Okay, because if you're at this point in your property buying purchase, congratulations. This is literally the first step into making this a reality for you. So what people don't realize is once they're under contract, you're actually going to be under contract for usually at least a month. And the beginning part can be really busy, but in general, most of the time that you're under contract, it's going to be kind of chill. Like you're going to hit a lot of lull moments and be like, am I supposed to be doing something right now? But there are some key things that you do need to do. So we are going to go over exactly what those things are so you know what to expect and to ensure that you're taking the right steps needed while you're under contract. And you're also making sure that your real estate agent is on top of it. Because remember, I used to be a real estate agent and I helped so many people purchase properties. And then I actually purchased for my own properties myself. And so I have literally sold millions of dollars of real estate and gone through the transaction process so many freaking times right now, which is why I want to tell you all of this so that it can go as smoothly as possible for you. And these are just some expectations that you can have for both yourself and for your realtor. Now, being under contract is so freaking exciting. And this is when you're actually going to get serious about the real estate investing thing, right? Because you are committed. Now, I just wanted to let you know that just because you're under contract, it doesn't mean that you actually have to buy the house. You're going to be putting contingencies in place within your contract, like an inspection period or an appraisal contingency or a financing contingency, probably all of those, where if anything happens and you either find something you don't like, or you can't actually get a loan on the property, or the property doesn't appraise, you can actually get out of contract and walk away from the deal with your full deposit in hand. The only things that you may lose are on any inspection fees that you do because you do have to come out of pocket for those, or any appraisal fees that you just have to pay up front. Now, when you become a more savvy real estate investor, you can start to waive some of these contingencies if you feel really confident in the deal. For example, the property that I just purchased in Colorado, I actually waived the appraisal completely because it had just gotten appraised a couple months before. And I'd looked at comps in the area and I was pretty confident with how much the property was going to appraise for. And we were already getting it for way under value. So honestly, didn't care. And the other thing we actually ended up waiving were any repairs during the inspection period. However, the funny thing is the seller still ended up doing some of those repairs for us just because we came in with a really good and a really strong offer, and they were getting divorced. So they really wanted to sell this property and we knew they would. So we kind of knew we were going to have that wiggle room. But once again, these are more advanced strategies that you can put in place the more comfortable you get with real estate investing. Okay, so when you're actually under contract, it's about a 30 to 45 day period. Sometimes it can be 60 days. I've been under contract with a client for 6 months before, and that was a very special case. It was a short sale. Don't do short sales if you can avoid them. And it should not take you over 2 months to close. Usually it's about 30 to 45 days, sometimes around 60 days. It all kind of depends on how fast your lender can work and just how fast the process is going for you. Okay, so what the heck actually happens over these 30 to 45 days? So in the first 3 to 5 days, so from day 1 to about 5, there's a few key things that you have to do. And this actually doesn't start until you and the seller have actually signed your final purchase agreement. So you've given the first offer, they've come back with negotiations, all of that, and you've signed the final one saying, okay, we're ready to go forward. This is when the timeline starts. But remember too, in this period, everything is still negotiable. Everything. So within these first 5 days, you're going to need to hand in your good faith deposit. Now, there are different things that these are called in different places. Some places call it a good faith deposit. Some people just say deposit. Some people say earnest money. It's all the same thing. It's basically just a deposit saying that you are committed to buying this property. And usually anywhere from 1 to 5K is the norm. People will say about 1% of the purchase price, but it can be literally anything you get to decide, but 1 to 5K is the norm depending on the price of the property. I put as low as 1,000. I actually remember with my first property purchase, the seller didn't even require me to put any deposit down, but I was like, this feels kind of weird. I'm just going to put $1,000 down. But also it depends on what the circumstances are in the market. Like for example, during COVID, where things were flying off the market, people were putting $20,000 as earnest money, $50,000, crazy amounts to show that you were serious about buying this property. But in general, you shouldn't have to do that. But in order to make your offer more competitive, you may want to increase your earnest money if you are competing with anyone else. And you're going to give your earnest money check to your realtor or wire it to the title company, or it may be to the listing agent, broker. It really just kind of depends. You determine the terms in the agreement. Your realtor should really guide you through that and what's the norm in your market. And then you also may have to get a letter from your lender saying that you have started the lending process to send over to the seller. Once again, it just shows you're serious. It shows that you've chosen your lender and that you're actually going through the process. And once again, you're going to give this to your realtor. Your realtor is the one who's doing all of the communications with the seller. You really should not have any communications with the seller or with the selling agent. Everything should go through your realtor. And then during this time, you also need to pick a title company and tell them that you are under contract. So tell your lender and tell your title company, and your realtor should be able to help you pick that. In our coaching program, we also help you pick lenders depending on what you're trying to do. Make sure you're getting the right loan for you. Now, once again, your realtor is the liaison. They should be keeping track of everything and making sure everything's happening according to time. If your realtor is good, they're going to have either a group message or a group email with everyone on that thread, meaning you have the listing agent, have the lender, have the title, so that everyone kind of knows what's going on. Like, this is a part of their job. But you just want to make sure that you are also staying on top of it, okay? Okay, so now from day 5-ish, 3 to 5-ish to 15, that is when the inspection period happens. And really, actually, it starts like day 1 to 15. That's when the inspection period happens. You're essentially going to determine a date when you have to provide your final inspection response to the seller. Now, during that time period, you want to do all of the necessary inspections so that you can provide the sellers with a response. Usually, I would start off with just a general inspection and a sewer scope. Those are going to be your most important inspections that you have to do and should do on every single property. And then from that general inspection, you can schedule any other inspections right after that. Or if you know that there's something wrong with the property, you may want to go ahead and just get someone scheduled in to go see that right off the bat. But for example, if from the general inspection, it says, yeah, there's something really wrong with the roof, or the AC is out, or whatever it may be, then you're going to want to have specialists come out after that, take a look at it, and give you a quote to see how much it would be to fix. And some specialists that you may see are roofers, an electrician, a structural engineer, a plumber, a termite or pest control person, AC HVAC person. Those are the kind of things you want people to come in and check out if you are seeing issues with anything. But your general inspector should be able to give you an idea of what is an actual cause for concern. Now, note, your inspection report is going to be incredibly scary. Like, it's going to be at least 50 pages long, probably closer to 100. I've had brand new construction properties that were still at least 30 to 50 pages long, okay? Because in that inspection report, it is literally their job to point out every single tiny little thing that is wrong with your property. And that is not done to code. Okay, so do I have something exciting happening for you? So if you have been trying to get into real estate investing, but you find yourself stuck in analysis paralysis, maybe you just don't know where to start or what your next steps are, this event is going to be for you. Now, I do not do this often, but I am going to be hosting a free, and I mean 100% absolutely free, live masterclass on September 17th on how you, yes, you can get started investing in real estate by the end of 2024. Because y'all, we are already halfway through the year, people, okay? Approaching Q4 at this point, and there is so much time for you to make this real estate investing goal of yours a reality. I also think this is going to be my last free masterclass of the year. So this is going to be the last opportunity that you will have to come and learn from me live and get all of your questions answered by yours truly. Now it is time for you to get into the room with people doing exactly the thing that you want to do. So if you want to come to this completely free live event, DM me the word freedom on Instagram or click the link in the show notes to sign up there. And I will see you there. I'm so freaking stoked. Now let's dive back into the show. Some of that stuff though, honestly doesn't matter. Like some of that stuff is so minor, really doesn't matter. Probably costs a couple $100s to fix, nothing major. But you're going to rely on both your inspector and your realtor to kind of give you that idea of what matters and what doesn't, okay? And in my coaching program in WWA, that's where I actually help people get their first, second, or third investment properties, usually a house hack. We actually, like our team goes over the inspection report with you and points out any major things that we think are a cause for concern as well, so that you have that extra backing as well. So we help provide that support. But yeah, I've seen inspection reports as long as 150 pages. Don't be scared by them. That is normal, even on your properties, okay? Now, if you find things that are concerning, go ahead and get quotes from technicians, see how much they're going to be. I would also really recommend getting like the highest quote you can. Like you want to get the most expensive person out there to give you a quote, because then you're going to have more negotiation power with the seller. Like, yes, I could probably get this done for cheaper, but go with like the licensed, super well-known contractor to come out there and give you a quote and give you the highest bid, because that gives you more negotiation power. Because that's what you're going to use to either get seller concessions, or you're going to have the seller actually fix those things before you close. Remember too that at this point, everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable, okay? Price, seller concessions, any fixes to the home. During this time, like when you're under contract, you also want to make sure that you actually have access to money, like easy access to money, because you are going to have to come out of pocket to pay for those inspections. So like you're usually going to use a credit or a debit card to pay for those inspections. Okay, so now once you've gone back and forth with the sellers, you've done your negotiations in terms of fixes and inspections and all of that, right around that day 15 period, that is when your inspection period will end. And hopefully you've come to some sort of an agreement. And so either you're going to decide to move forward with the property purchase, or you're going to come out of it and take your deposit. But hopefully you're moving forward. Now, if you are at that point where you went through inspections and now you're moving forward, now is a great time to let the lender know that you're done with inspections and that you're going to need to order the appraisal. So this is really where the lender kicks into gear and starts underwriting and making sure that you're going to be able to qualify for the loan for the property. So remember, during this time, don't make any big purchases. Do not open any lines of credit. Do not open any credit cards. Do not go get a car. Don't go buying $20,000 worth of furniture during this time. You want your credit and your bank accounts and all of your statements to look squeaky clean for the underwriters. Do not touch anything until you get a clear to close from your lender. And I would even just make sure, like, ask your lender, hey, is it okay for me to start buying things now? Because you do not want to mess this up. And I see so many people screw this up. But so now the lender is also going to order the appraisal. And sometimes the appraiser may be hard to get, so they may order it while you're in the inspection period. But usually once you're done with the inspections, that's when they'll actually order the appraisal. Now, what the heck even is an appraisal? An appraisal is basically just an evaluation by an expert to tell you how much they think your property is worth. Now, this is incredibly important because that is what the lender is going to use to determine how much money they can actually lend you. Like, let's say you're about to buy a $500,000 house and the appraisal comes back at $520,000. Amazing. Okay. Then you're walking into the property with $20,000 worth of equity. This actually happened with my first property purchase. I bought it for $399,000. It appraised for $419,000. I was like, dope. And even this property that I purchased, it appraised for $180,000 more than I actually purchased it for. And we love walking into equity, okay? However, if you're buying this $500,000 property and then the appraisal comes in below what you have it under contract for, like let's say it came in at 490,000 or 480,000, then you're in a little bit of a tiff. Because either you have to come to the table with that appraisal gap, which is basically just the difference between what it was valued for and what you have it under contract for. So if it appraised for 480, then you'd have to come to the table with an extra $20,000. But not all is lost, because if this happens, this is just another point of negotiation between you and the seller. You can tell the seller, hey, the appraisal came back low. We're going to need to lower the price. Some sellers may be stubborn, but a lot of them will actually negotiate with you. They'll either come down in price or they'll give you concessions. And once again, this is a point where if you cannot come to an agreement, you can always walk away from the property. And the only thing that you'll be losing are your inspections and your appraisal fees. Now, remember, once you're done with inspections too, this is also the time period that you want to let your title company know that everything is good with the title, everything's good with the appraisal, go ahead and do your thing. This is also your time to be a little FBI agent investigator, okay? You're going to want to pull up any permits of the property. You're going to want to check your zoning, make sure that that's correct. And this is stuff that you can do, not waiting for your title or anyone to do this. You go online, go and make sure that everything is actually correct. Like, especially if you plan on doing something like a short-term rental, make sure that you can actually do this with this property. I would also ask the seller for any past bills. Make sure that your utility bills that you projected are in line with what is actually happening with the property so that you can update your spreadsheet accordingly. Do your due diligence. I cannot stress this enough. You're also going to need to secure home insurance. Do not forget home insurance and any other insurances like flood insurance and stuff like that before you actually close on the property. Now, once everything is go, you've done the appraisal, you've done the inspections, your lender is like, hey, everything looks good. He's cleared you, then you've got the clear to close. Your lender is going to give you the clear to close. Note that also throughout this entire time, the lender, title, everyone is probably going to be asking you for a bunch of documents. Like, you just got to be ready to give all the documents necessary so that you can close on this property. So do not be alarmed if you're like, oh my gosh, they need this again. Yes, they need this again. They sometimes need to update things. Just provide them with what they need and be super cooperative. But yeah, once you have the clear to close, it basically just means that you're set to go and you can close on the property and get the keys. So the lender is actually going to send you a CD, which is a closing disclosure. And there it's going to state how much your mortgage is, how much you actually have to bring to the closing table, like how much money do you need to have with you. Usually you can either wire it to the title company or bring a check or bring, certified funds. That's what you're going to need to actually give to the title company so that you can close. Make sure you give the exact amount that they say. And if you're going to wire, just make sure that you know how long it takes for your wire to arrive, because you don't want to wake up the day of closing and be like, oh snap, I need to go wire my money. And then it takes a day or two to wire, then you can't actually close on that day. Oh, also make sure to bring your ID. It is required, so make sure to bring that. And that's pretty much it for the under contract period. I know that seems like a lot. We covered a lot of information, but I promise it is really not bad. As someone who has done it so many times, and I've done it 4 times just for myself, and then another who knows how many times with clients, it's really not bad. Trust me, you can do it. And also just remember that once you are under contract, you always have the ability to pull out. Now, I'm not saying, oh my gosh, just get under contract on everything and pull out all the time, but just know that you can get out of a situation. Like one of my students, Cyan, she was just under contract on a property. There were some major red flags with this property. And so she just got out of contract. So it's from a mindset perspective, the worst case scenario is that you are out a few $100, maybe $1,000 just from inspections and things. And yes, I know it can feel so scary, but I want you to really take a look at your fear. Is there something really wrong with the property, or are you just scared right now of the responsibility of making a mistake? I want you to listen to your gut, because if it's the latter, where you just are scared of the responsibility, you're kind of scared of making the next step, just know that this period of time of being under contract is for you to build your confidence so you can go into the property knowing that you're making the right decision for you, because you really can't screw it up. Because trust me, once you're under contract, something's going to go wrong. Things just do. Like they always go wrong. Something goes wrong. And I want you to not look at it as like a roadblock or another thing, right? I want you to take it as a chance to instead negotiate, to learn more about the property, to make sure that you're running your numbers correctly and that you're putting everything in there. I want you to trust yourself that you are making the right decision for you. Okay, now that is a wrap on part 2. I hope that this was helpful for you. Don't forget, there will be a free live masterclass on September 17th where I'm going to be going over exactly how you can get started investing in real estate in 2024. So either DM me the word free class on Instagram, so like FREECLASS, but 2 separate words, on IG, or click the link in the show notes to sign up. There are limited spots. I cannot wait to see you. There's just so much time left in this year. Let's make some magic happen. Thank you so much for listening to Wanderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.